dear friends. I hope you're doing well. My name is Dr. Mansuri, and I'm a psychologist. And this video today is about a brief presentation regarding depression. Now, we all know that depression is a debilitating disorder, and heaven forbid if you shall experience it, please do go get help. First thing we're going to do is we're going to define what a mood is. Depression is a type of a mood. A mood is different from an emotion. An emotion is much more simple and pure and not combined with other emotions. An emotion you feel in your body, and an emotion does not involve cognitive verbal thinking. It's just an emotion. Emotions are there to help us evaluate memories that we have just made or that we're recalling. For example, if I see someone put their hand on the stove that's hot, I might feel panicked for them, and therefore that emotion helps me evaluate that situation as a possibly panic-inducing or dangerous circumstance. So that's how we know how to evaluate our memories and what's inside of our head, is by prescribing them emotions. Now, people can have opposing emotions tied to the same experience. For example, they could have had an embarrassing experience that felt good but was painful at the same time. So it could really tear someone apart, and not knowing which emotion to go with, and feeling bad for feeling a certain emotion and not the other. But really, a person needs to understand that it's okay to have opposing emotions, and you just need to do some further work to figure out which emotion you acknowledge most, and that you want to be a part of your life or not be a part of your life. So a mood is different from an emotion in that a mood can involve different emotions, even opposing ones. A mood also involves, with the emotions or emotion, a certain level of verbal cognitive thinking that's related to the emotion, that's related to the memory that the emotion is attached to. For example, if I have the mood of sitting there feeling sad and then thinking to myself that I'm a failure, and that thought of a failure, being a failure, reinforces the sadness, and the sadness reinforces the thought of being a failure, then I'm stuck in a rut of a mood. Whereas, like I said before, an emotion is primary, it's pure, and therefore it's easier to dismiss. So that's why most people think the difference between sadness and depression is how prolonged the sadness is, which is not true. It's actually that depression is a mood, and a mood involves one or more emotions that are combined together, as well as this cognitive verbal thought that goes along with them. Another example of this is, for example, you have the memory of failing a test in school, and the evaluative emotion to that failed experience is probably feeling sad and anxious. And then the thought that was tied to that emotion and memory experience, whatever you want to call it, as a conclusion of sorts based on that experience, might sound something like this: I'm a failure. So the failure sentiments of being a failure reinforce a negative mood, and a negative mood reinforces sentiments of being a failure. Not only that, but being in a negative mood makes you behave differently and negatively, which also sets you up for further negativity. Wow, what a rut, I know, but there's ways of getting out of this. Essentially, the engine to your mood in cognitive terms is your belief system. And I don't mean beliefs in hoopla like ghosts and whatnot. I'm talking about 3 essential beliefs, actually 4, 3 of them indicated by Beck. These are beliefs in yourself, beliefs in others, beliefs in your future, and beliefs about your environment. So, for example, if you believe that you're a failure, you're probably going to wake up a bit anxious and not happy. There's your formula to depression and anxiety, is those thoughts that are driving it. Now, these thoughts came from a memory. I failed tests. Mom and dad went off on me and raised too high standards when I was taking these tests, and now I feel like a failure. The memory of failing a test actually made me feel bad, which reinforced everything. So, it's a pretty vicious cycle. A mood is not as transient as an emotion. For example, if you're watching Old Yeller and at the end of the movie, you cry a little bit, you feel the loss, but you get over it, you can dismiss it, and you don't have any cognitive thoughts of I'm a bad person, or other people are bad, or so on and so forth. It's just you process it. That means you digest it, you try to learn the dynamics involved in it and why it happened, and how you can react to it better in the future or be more prepared for it. Beliefs in others. If you believe that other people are terrible and they're out to get you, you're going to be anxious and you're not going to wake up happy. If you believe that your future is doomed, then you're probably going to be pretty sad and anxious as well. And if your environment, your beliefs regarding that are negative, well, same thing, you're going to be sad. So what you want to do is you want to ask your psychologist to help you inspect and identify your core beliefs about yourself, others, the future, and the environment. Also, once you have discovered this, you want to delve in a little deeper and try to figure out which one of the 18 schemas described by Jeffrey Young you may be carrying. And you can look it up online, and you can have your therapist help you by giving you there's a test you can take, or you can just do it through a conversation to help you pinpoint what it is that you actually need, what schemas you might actually carry. And a schema is similar to a belief system. So a schema of abandonment, for example, if I have an abandonment schema, I constantly may think that I'm being abandoned, or I may get activated to feel like I'm getting abandoned at a suggestion of a possibility, which would in turn make me kind of revert to a childish state where this abandonment initially occurred in, and my personality kind of takes after that childish fixated state, and I start actually acting childish because I feel like I'm going to be abandoned. And I might make some bad decisions and then make the situation worse. So schemas are important, core beliefs are important. And how emotions tie to memories that tie to thoughts. This is an infodynamic perspective. So typically in cognitive theory terms, it's the mind has been thought of in terms of cognition, an event, and a behavior, or cognition, an emotion, and a behavior. Whereas infodynamically, what I suggest is we should look at it in terms of memory and an emotion that's tied to this memory, and the thought that helps further describe the situation, that's verbal. In other words, let's say you took a test in school and you got an F on that test. Here's the memory of getting an F. You would attach a negative emotion to that, such as sadness, and you would form a conclusive verbal thought to it, such as I'm a failure. That sentiment of being a failure, that belief of being a failure, is called a schema, and it's going to dictate how you perceive things and how you act and behave. And your psychologist can help you further dissolve these schemas and improve them and integrate them. Another thing you want to do is ask your psychologist to help you learn how to separate your healthy adult side from your fixated side.